Anti-government protests erupted in the streets of Cuba in response to the poor conditions on the island and the lack of freedom under the communist regime. This is amazing to see this break out. The government has deployed security forces across the country and arrested 80 people already, including some civil rights activists.
Yeah, and Sean, these Cuban protesters are calling for freedom on the streets. In this video, you can see police throwing rocks at protesters, and at some point during this video, you could also hear gunshots. And crowds flipped police vehicles outside the Communist Party's headquarters in Havana, and they were chanting, "Cuba is not yours." But Sean, many of these protesters actually been seen carrying the American flag as a symbol of hope and freedom that America represents. The interesting thing is many politicians in America have been pointing out that around this same time last year, right here in America, we actually saw the opposite with American protesters burning our flag.
Yeah, in a weird way, I'm excited to see this because when you see people fighting for freedom and they're still looking at our flag as that symbol, it makes me feel good that someone in this country, in this world rather, recognizes what the flag of our country means. So it's sad that so many in our own country don't recognize this, because when you look at, the folks on the left, the squad, congresswomen like AOC and Ilmar Owen, they've been silent on this. They've been silent about these people who are being oppressed and are fighting for their freedom. I assume it's because they don't want to call attention to the ills of socialism, the same ills that they want to bring to this country.
In a tweet, the acting assistant secretary for the U.S. Department of State's Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs said protests are growing because the Cuban people want to express concerns about, get this, Sean, COVID cases and deaths. Concern about COVID cases and deaths, the secretary is completely ignoring the fact that they have been subject to decades of repression under a communist regime.
Yeah, it just frankly doesn't make sense. President Biden released a statement in part that said the United States calls on the Cuban regime to hear their people and serve their needs at this vital moment rather than enriching themselves. Never once does he mention the ills of communism or socialism or the regime itself. It's amazing what's not in that statement.
Yeah, and Sean, there are questions about the extent of President Biden's involvement in issuing his own statement. Take a listen to what White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said about that.
We, of course, are monitoring closely. You saw the statement the president, we put out in the president's name this morning, in his voice, of course, conveying his support for the people of Cuba.
Sean, did you find it odd at all the way that she expressed that, saying that we put this out, of course, in his voice? I mean, did he even see it?
That was one of the oddest phrased things that I've heard in a long time from the podium, right? I got asked all the time, do the president's tweets? And I would say, yeah, they speak for themselves. The idea that you're like, seriously, he saw this. I'm not kidding. The president knows what's going on. That was embarrassing.
Yeah, it felt very, very odd. But President Trump also, he weighed in today, of course, saying, quote, "Don't forget that Biden and the Democrats campaigned on reversing my very tough stance on Cuba. Remember when Obama attended baseball games with Castro while they imprisoned, beat, and killed the Cuban people? I stand with the Cuban people 100% in their fight for freedom," end of his quote.
Yeah, the president's not the only one holding the Biden administration accountable. Former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, he said, quote, "The people of Cuba and Venezuelan here in America know the protests in Cuba are a direct result of oppressive socialist agenda, not about COVID. Misery and socialism run on parallel tracks. Socialist Democrats may not realize it, but most Americans do." Both of our next guests actually are also calling out the administration for their lack of support for the Cuban people. Let's bring in Florida Congressman Carlos Gimenez, who immigrated from Cuba with his family more than 6 decades ago, and New York Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, whose mother was a Cuban refugee. Folks, good to see you both. Congressman Gimenez, I want to start with you. Lindsay and I were just talking about this. Did Jen Psaki's comments from the White House podium concern you at all? Because it seems to me like they just came out with a statement from the president, and it seems a little unclear after the way she explained it, if you will, that this was really the sentiment that the president expressed.
No, I think that it was, she said, in his name. Didn't say that he did it. So, no, I don't think that the president put that statement out at all. I think somebody prepared it for him and put it out. I don't know what the president's sentiments are on this. The statements that have been attributed to him are rather disturbing. That you're right, they don't mention communism, they don't mention socialism. They kind of allude to COVID and food shortages. Well, the people in Cuba aren't saying comida, which means food, and they're not saying COVID. They're saying libertad. Libertad means freedom, and they're shouting libertad, 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 which means freedom, freedom, freedom from 60 years of oppression, 60 years of a brutal regime, 60 years of communism that brings misery to all. And that's exactly what they're talking about. And, maybe the squad is really silent. Hopefully they're taking a look at this and saying, here's what you want to bring to the United States. And that's why I ran for Congress. That's why I'm in Congress, to fight to make sure that doesn't come to this country. But I also want freedom for my home country, too.
Congresswoman, I don't know if you had a chance to ask your mom this yet, but it seems to me that the congressman's points make sense. They're actually listening to the Cuban people talk about freedom, not about COVID, not about food shortages. And it's almost like the Biden administration doesn't actually want to hear the truth, or think that no one knows how to say comida in Spanish, and think that somehow that we're just going to forget what this is really about.
Yeah, well, I mean, the reason why there is food shortage is because the people there are starving, and they're starving because the communist and socialist policies do not work. They have been living under oppression for 6 decades. The people there want freedom. They want democracy. They want free and fair elections. They want human rights. They want to be able to determine their futures. And we stand with them. We want to make sure that the Biden administration understands what this is truly about, that they are rejecting communism. They want freedom. They are walking in the streets with the American flag because they respect our country. They love this country. They want to be like the United States of America. They want to have those liberties and freedoms that many within this country take for granted. And that is what Carlos and I are in Congress to prevent from happening here, communism and socialism, but also to speak up for those around the world. And as the leader of the free world, America must stand shoulder to shoulder with the Cuban people during this time.
Congressman, we're talking about how this Communist Party isn't working for Cuba, but President Biden, his statement, or the White House statement, whoever wrote that, Jen Psaki, it didn't mention communism at all. How do you think that this administration is handling this? Are they being too soft on a Communist Party?
Well, look, it's to me, it really doesn't matter what the president says. I want to see what the president does. And so
yes,
what we're looking for now is support of the dissidents and the demonstrators in Cuba. Assert America was willing to stand with them. Also make sure that America continues its sanctions against the communist regime of Cuba, deny them the credit that they are sorely looking for around the world. And the reason that they don't have any credit is that they don't pay their bills. And the reason they don't pay their bills is because they have a failed communist system that doesn't work economically for itself or for the people. We also need to make sure that we support the dissidents inside of Cuba by giving them financial support, so that this is a organic movement that's happened inside Cuba by young people. And the young people are saying, look, we don't have anything. You've taken everything away from us, including our fear of you. And once that happens, once the people of Cuba no longer fear the Cuban government, that's the beginning of the end. And so I'm hopeful that this is the beginning of the end. But I've seen the repressive tactics of the Cuban government before. And let's see what they do, now while they're confronting this very, very unique sort of uprising that they're looking at right now.
Congresswoman, I have a theory here, which is part of the reason that they haven't mentioned this, they haven't mentioned communism, socialism, is because they know where their party is right now. AOC, Omar, all the rest of the squad are trying to sell America and sell progressives on this idea of socialism. They can't condemn it in Cuba because they want it here.
Yeah, if you look at AOC wanting to have a single payer system, socialized medicine, that has been a disaster in Cuba. I have relatives that are seeking basic medications, things like aspirin they don't even have access to. When you look at Bernie Sanders and his fight for $15 minimum wage, well, in Cuba, they make $15 a month. And yet Bernie Sanders, AOC, the entire squad, they've been silent. And if they truly care about poor people, they truly care about people meeting their basic needs and having access to food, then they should care about this right now, and they should be speaking up. But you're right. They're trying to push the very policies that people like my mother and millions from around the world have fled. And American young people need to speak to immigrants. They need to understand why people left their homelands and what it's like in other parts of the world. And they will know why you have people in Cuba, why you see people in Hong Kong walking and marching in the streets with the American flag, because we are a beacon of freedom and opportunity, and we must preserve that for future generations.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.